Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to the Uzi Lewy channel. My name is Uzi Lewy. Tonight, this evening, we have a very special guest. It's a brother that I've known for many years, but you know, going by and with the music and with the band and with the conga playing, and I've always admired his work as a band player, and he's always admired our work with the congas and the videos that we put out. And but then I found out something about him that he's actually an encyclopedia when it comes to the reggae scene, not only the regular reggae scene, but how the Spanish reggae began here in New York City. Very interesting story. I have to give credit to, I believe I seen an interview on Senor Flock, I believe is the name of the TV channel, so FLAQ. And he really captivated me with what he was saying, because so much of it resonated with what I remember during those times. Although I didn't go into the reggae side that deep, but I like reggae. I went more into the hip hop side, but some of the other things that he said resonated with me in that era, from the mid '80s all the way into the '90s, and trying to connect the dots with reggae, and in particular Spanish reggae, and listening to a lot of El Chombo and his YouTube channel. When this man spoke, it resonated, and I remembered some of that stuff that he was saying, because I might not have been in the scene, but I remember the music that was being played during that time. So it is my pleasure to introduce to the listening audience to Hector Armando Quiros Jr., better known as Tingo San. How are you, my brother?
All right, on yourself, Lucille. How's everything, man?
Everything is good.
How's the
Hey,
weather
man.
out there?
Hey, man, let me tell you, it was an excellent interview that you did. On that other I hope I'm saying the channel right, Flock, Senor
Yeah,
Flock,
Senor Flock TV.
Yeah, Senor Flock TV. So you did an excellent interview there, and you gave a lot of the history, but it was in Spanish, and I wanted to do it in English because so much of the Panamanian and the Jamaican and the listening audience of people all over the world might have not understood it in Spanish. They might enjoy reggae, Spanish reggae, but might not know exactly what was it that you were saying there in the history of the Spanish reggae. So I want to begin with you, because I know you're a musician. Your craft goes beyond just something that you got into in your teenage years and, you know, in your early 20s. What was your beginning of love of music? What was the beginning of love of music for you? Can you remember that?
Well, the beginning is, first of all, I'm from Panama. I was born in Colon, which is, we call it provincia, but over here in the United States, we're related as a state. Colon, Panama. That's where I was born in 1970. And in Colon during the 70s, I used to love merengue, salsa, compa music, which is Haitian music. We had rock and roll, we had R&B, we had soul music, we had all type of genres. We used to listen to all type of genres and dance to all type of genres. And also, I fell in love with jazz music as a little kid. Just music with no talking, no singing on it, and stuff like that. Like in the mid 70s, I heard reggae for the first time in Colón. There was a Jamaican man that resided in Panama. His name was Mr. John Dre. That was the name that he used to go by. He used to take out his little stereo system. Remember, just the one turntable from back, the old school one turntable system.
Yeah.
There was about, it was just like the the receiver and the turntable on top of it, and he just plugged in two little speakers. He used to always have it outside his door in the building, and he was the first person I heard reggae music from, and I fell in love with it. Yeah, and one of those first songs was the Fatty Fatty from the Heptones. That Heptones was the group from Jamaica that used to sing, and the main singer of that group was Leroy Sibbles, which up till today, they say that's Buju Banton's father because they look alike, but it's not. Yeah.
So
If you look at the pictures, you're gonna be like, wow, they look alike.
Buju look just like him,
But he's not his father though.
but he's not his father. So when you heard this record, this John Dredd was his name, and he brought out his sound system, and you heard this record. Was it like an instant, like a bulb went off, like, man, this is the music that I really like.
Yeah, it was something different,
Right.
because you used to hear about Marley music, but that was a Studio One that was recorded in the '60s.
Right.
It was something not made by Bob Marley.
Right.
So it was something different for me.
Right. Definitely,
Then when
because
I
I
came to the
remember
uh-huh.
I remember that in Panama also, Bob Marley, listening to a lot of Bob Marley. Bob Marley was the reggae we listened to.
Yeah, but like all these guys in Panama, they're not accurate about it. They're not accurate about it because they're saying that they started listening to reggae music in Panama with this, and it wasn't that music that from the '80s. They only saying Bob Marley, but they're not mentioning the other artists.
Right.
Because I also heard Dennis Brown when he was I heard one of Dennis Brown records in Cologne in the '70s when Dennis Brown was only a teenager, 13, 14 years old. And
I
Dennis
remember
Brown is
Gregory
between
Isaacs too.
Yeah, all of those at a young
Yeah.
age. But mainly Dennis Brown because he was just a teenager in those days
Okay.
and stuff. And Dennis Brown is the crown prince of reggae.
So do you think that it was more so how do you say it, like a regional thing? In Cologne Cologne has a lot of Jamaican how will you say it? People that came from Jamaica are in that province of Cologne, in the provincia of Cologne. And do you think it was more like a cultural thing because it was the people that came from Jamaica, so they had more of an attraction, and the people that were from Cologne had more of an attraction to reggae music more so than any other of the states, as you said, or provinces in Panama?
Well, you could say yes, because most of the Caribbean came through Cologne side, the coastline, Bocas del Toro, Cologne side, because that's the coast for the Caribbean.
That's the coast, right?
So that was the entry point for them.
Right.
But like in Cologne, you got a lot of Jamaicans even on the coastline. If you go past the Canal Zone territory that's in Cologne that belong to the Americans. Like if you go to Palma Bella, Maria Chiquita, and those places, you see a lot of Caribbeans.
Okay.
Caribbean checks and all of that stuff you see over there. Setups and things like that.
Right. Okay.
That's what you will hear like that's what you will hear like the calypso, the old time calypso.
Right.
You will see the I call it we call it the junk canoes, even in Panama. They got
right.
and stuff. And the Congos originate from the coastline of the Caribbean,
Right.
which is from Cologne all the way to Bocas del Toro, all the way to the borderline of Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Okay.
Yeah.
So now,
Costa Rica, yeah.
So now, at what age did you leave Panama and come up to the United States? At what age did you leave and come up to the United States? And how was that whole thing for you?
It was 1979 at the age of 8.
Okay.
August 15, 1979. I was only 8 years old.
8 years old. So
Yeah.
when when you step on the scene in New York, what's happening? What's the, if you could remember that, because you were only 8 years old, do you remember what was the sound of New York, what they were listening to? What was it that people were listening to, and what was it that you were into during that time?
Well, at that time was what you had the typical American music,
Right.
all the American genres, Besides the American genres, what was hot was the Fania, the salsa, the
Salsa.
Fania salsa.
Okay.
Reggae music was being played in New York, but not as popular as before.
Right.
It was the Fania that was running thing in the
Fania
Spanish
All
market
Stars.
in New York
Right.
at that time.
Right.
Yeah, that's who was hot outside, and just the typical R&B, soul, the oldies, the jazz music, rock and roll, all that stuff was
Disco.
still there. Because reggae music was evolving in the United States,
Right.
just like the Haitian music.
Right.
All those genres were just like underground. Even the rap
Okay.
music was underground during 1979.
Okay. So
So
now,
it was I forgot the group name. That
Sugar
started
Hill
the rap.
Gang.
Yeah,
Sugar Hill Gang.
yeah, yeah. I
Sugar.
started with them. Yeah, all of
Yeah.
that was being underground.
Right.
Yeah.
So when did the reggae scene start to become something that became relevant? At what point did that start to become relevant? And can you explain to the people the difference between, the reggae music and the dance hall, and how that whole thing transpired and how it came about? Because I thought that you made very good points about when the instrument stopped, and then when the first original beat made in the studio, that became the
Mhm.
beginning of the
Yeah.
dancehall.
Well, that was like in New York, especially like in the late seventies going into 1980, 81 is when reggae music was getting popular year by year. A lot of people didn't listen to it. Who had the knowledge of it was the West Indians living in New York that they used to listen to reggae back in their countries before migrating to the United States. But in the 70s, there was a reggae TV show named Rockers TV by Mr. Earl Chin. And then you had Gil Bailey on WNWK trying to revolutionize reggae music in the 70s, in which he did. But reggae got popular in 1986, is when the whole of New York started listening to reggae music. 1986. But
And
like
what were those
81,
songs?
82, it was just like building up.
Right.
That was 1986. What you used to hear in the streets in New York was Don't Bend Down, What the Hell the Police Can Do, and
Uh-huh.
Sharon, If Pregnant, You're Pregnant. That was
I
the
remember
whole thing
those
you used to hear in
songs.
the street. But when I started, well, in 1979, in the building that I was living
Right.
on Ocean Avenue and Parkside, in the basement, there used to be three bands that used to practice. One was a Haitian band, one was the super of the building. He had a reggae salsa band. And then you had the reggae band that I started with that got me started into this business.
Right.
So I learned those three genres in that basement. I used to hang down there. Just like, I'm a Panamanian and I love music. So music just used to hypnotize us. And that's how come I used to end up doing that and stuff like that. And that's why I
Right.
learned to play each genre down there. I was taught down there in that basement and
Okay.
stuff. But it was but everything was underground. It was just building up. It was just building up. Yeah.